How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another Racer X Garage Build. I'm Chris Keever. To the left of me is Jamie Ellis. Right here is a 21 KTM 300 TPI. We haven't done one of these in a while, and every time I seem to get on one, I have a good time out on the trails, but I have yet to get one that is actually a hybrid type of motorcycle. So a few things going on here. So Kreft took care of the suspension. You guys are familiar with Kreft. It's a really cool system where you can adjust going from a motocross track to off-road trails. They've really worked on this system a lot. I've had a couple of experiences with them, but never had the chance to try the system out on some trails as well as a moto. We're gonna hit some motocross behind me, and then we're gonna go out on some of these Glen Helen trails, sand washes, and see how the adjustments work. All right, on the engine side of this thing, on the TPIs, what I've noticed, and I've ran them in stock condition, Husqvarna, KTM, they're very slow revving. They lug really well, but on a motocross track, it doesn't have that exciting power. Like, I want a little bit more hit, still have that rear wheel connection like the stock one does, but let it climb a little bit freer and rev a little bit longer. I brought Jamie in here because he's dynoed this thing, he's looked at it, and there is some key components to the engine that he can talk about.
So a couple of the big things with this bike, even in stock trim with the stock setup, the power valve adjustment is going to be key for however you're riding. If you're riding off-road and you want to have a bit more traction, the way it comes from KTM is pretty buried far in there. And just with buying the power valve adjusting tool, you can make it more moto-friendly, if you will, by just bringing the power valve out. So we reached out to South Bay Moto Performance, and they are the importers of two-stroke performance products. As you know, we do a lot with four strokes, but we haven't dove into these yet, so did a little bit of research. They seem to be the guys that are doing good, and the dyno showed that just as well. So we're using the billet cylinder head from Two Stroke Performance, as well as a reflash through South Bay, which is the Two Stroke Performance. They're an Australian company, so if you want to get a hold of them, you can get a hold of these guys at South Bay. And yeah, so the bike, you know, the Kreft suspension is going to be really exciting because obviously, you know, the tunability from the outside's there, and overall, the performance came to the bottom of what you would want coming out of every turn. And so depending on what the feedback is, we can play with the screw some, but the bike really did come to life and is more of a moto bike at this stage.
Yeah, so again, the key thing for me is if I'm gonna buy this bike and you're a consumer, I wanna have an option to go to the motocross track, have fun, and then also get on the trails and then have a setting that works for all of that. So this is the whole bike build that the Oldtimer guys over there. So if you guys want to go race some really cool races, Oregon Oldtimers Association, oldtimers.com, they have oldtimersmx.com, sorry. They have all different kinds of races. Southern California, they have different chapters. They have longer motos. So one of the guys in the Las Vegas chapter owns this bike, and he gave it to us to try. So he's kind of that type of guy. He rides moto, he rides off-road, and we built this bike for him. And we're going to try it out. And a couple things here that I want to mention is FMF pipe and silencer, has split clamps. Of course, Dunlop MX33 tires. W did the wheels on this thing, looks really nice. It's been a while since I've seen a silver rim, and it kind of brings me back to my childhood because there's a lot of black and blue rims nowadays, but not a lot of silver, so that looks very nice. So overall, the motif looks really cool. And of course, what we're going to do here, we're going to take this on the motocross track behind us. It's a vet track. I'm a vet guy. You guys watching this are probably not diehard moto guys, so take it to the vet track and then as well some canyons and some trails out here in lovely, lovely downtown Glen Helen, California. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we just got off of this KTM 300 TPI bike. Oregon Oldtimers Association basically built this whole thing for me to ride. Lots of cool companies involved in this build. To the right of me is Red Martinez. You don't know Red. I do. But I usually don't bring people onto these garage builds. Usually just me talking about the build and maybe the guy who built it. But since the gentleman at Oldtimers MX dropped this bike off, I thought, why not get a guy who's more familiar with this bike than I am? Look, transparency is key. I don't spend a lot of time on a 300 TPI, maybe once or twice a year. This guy owns one. This is exactly who this bike is built for, a guy like Red. He rides off-road, he rides vet tracks, he likes to do both. This is more of a hybrid 300 TPI. So Red, you have one. What is done to yours first, and then we're going to talk about this.
So I have a 2020 300 TPI that's been set up for off-road. I've added lights, did the TSP Performance, ECU flash and head, and then a bunch of off-road protection items and some suspension work from AEO.
So similar engine work to yours, TSP, South Bay Moto, based out of Australia, what you're talking about. So tell the people what they can do to get their stuff there if they have a TPI.
So if you have a TPI bike, you can reach out to South Bay Moto. They are the distributor for TSP, which is two-stroke performance. You can send him your ECU. He flashes it, and he'll send it back to you, and he's got a great turnaround time. You also can choose from 3 different heads, low, medium, or high. Seems like the medium compression head seems to work the best. When you get it back, some easy instructions how to install it, and then set your power valve and your air screw, and you're good to go.
You told me a little bit different power valve setting on this versus yours.
Yeah, so mine's set up more for the off-road world, which after all those mods, it runs amazingly better. But then I got on this, and it was amazing how much more power this had compared to mine. And after checking the bike out, it's all with just the power valve setting. Yeah, he has his pretty much way out, and it made a huge difference. This thing was so fun to ride. I almost wanted to go back and change mine around a little bit.
All right, so a lot of key elements to this. Not only is the engine work done, obviously another key element to this is the Kreft suspension package. What's cool about Kreft suspension, and although I've only had a couple different experiences with them, is you can adjust your suspension, your fork, to what you're riding. If you're riding off-road up in the mountains, if you're riding a motocross track here at Glen Helen, you can adjust that. They set it up for you. This is actually set up for the customer, so not my weight, not Red's weight, but I went out on the trails, as you guys can see on the video, and the Glen Helen trails are more cut in like from a bulldozer or whatever, and there's some more technical stuff that I'm not going to go on, but very plush, very planted. When I come to expect from off-road settings is lots of movement and being soft. This has lots of movement, but has a lot of dampening. I like a lot of low-speed dampening if I hit something square edge, especially out here on the West Coast. And if for you guys out there on the East Coast, you guys have more rocky roots and just slippery conditions, so you want that sucker to move and follow the ground well. But for me, I'm 170 pounds. It worked really well. Red didn't even jump on this thing and check the sag, and you went on and go a lot more comfort than yours.
Yeah, it's got a little more comfort initially in the top part of the top part of the stroke. And out on the track, I had no problems with it at all. I never even bottomed it. It was hitting some stuff pretty hard for me. It was very plush. It soaked everything up. I was very happy with it.
Engine-wise, so for me, I only rode a stock unit before on a 300 TPI. I like the luggability of this thing. People ask me, Kiefer, if you're going to off-road, you're going to ride two-stroke or four-stroke. Honestly, I would take one of these just because how easy it is to ride. You can ride a gear high, lug it. You can get up hills. You can get up slippery points of any kind of trail. Four-stroke takes a little bit more finesse. This thing lugs very well. What I didn't like about the stock one is it ran through the power too quick, and it just didn't rev out. This has a lot more bottom end than what I'm accustomed to coming from a stock bike. And then it pulls farther. It doesn't rev out through the RPM as quick. So I like that, being a moto off-road-ish. I'm going to say ish because I don't ride trails that much. And up where I ride trails, it's more flowy. It's not super tight. You've been to Colorado. You've done these tight trails. You've done these technical trail rides. What do you feel the engine brings to the table versus your other engine?
They're really close on the bottom. This one's a little snappier, and I think that just has to do with the power valve. Overall, it just makes the power band better. So it
more control, more traction.
Definitely more control, more traction. But in the spots where the stock bike falls off on the top end, this thing kept going. I even noticed mine was better after I did the modification too, through the end of the mid range into the top. But this thing the overall power band was just amazing here at Glen Helen.
You have a similar FMF system, but you said to me, and I did not know this, which is cool that Red's here, the silencer on this is a little bit different. So what is this FMF silencer compared to yours?
If I'm not mistaken, that is the Erzberg edition, so it's longer, and I think it's supposed to add a little bit more bottom end to the bikes. Definitely still sound really good.
Yeah, very quiet muffler.
Very quiet until you get on it, and then it's not loud, but it has a great sound to it when you're on the gas.
Yeah, so if I could say jetting, which is not jetting, the overall clean feeling of the motorcycle, it's a little bit rich down low, but as soon as you get out of that lower RPM range, very clean, very crisp. I always like to call it throttle connection to the rear wheel. There's a lot of that in second and third gear, just messing around in the hills behind Glen Helen. Very easy to ride. I can lug it. What I also like is, I don't know about you, but I like having some traction on my butt. Is that too aggressive of a seat for a long trail ride?
No, that's actually really good, especially when it gets wet or you get muddy, that you need something like that to keep your butt planted in the seat for certain occasions.
Yeah, Guts Racing does a great job there. Overall, great, fun bike to ride. The guys Oregon Oldtimers are going to come pick this up. That's too bad, because I'm sure you'd like to spend some more time on it.
I would like to have this in the garage next to my other one so I could moto this one and then ride off-road my other one.
So thanks to the guys over at OregonOldtimers.com. You guys can check out Oldtimers MX.com if you're a moto guy. You want to ride some great older dudes like Red and I. Have some fun. You got to go to work in the morning. They understand that. So get longer motos. Very fun event. There's all kinds of those through the West Coast. You can go check them out on the website. But very fun build. Thank you, Kreft. Thank you, KTM. Thank you, Oregon Oldtimers. Thank you, FMF. When we do these garage builds, it's not just a bunch of people that we call and slap parts on. There's a lot of things that go along with it, and it's fun to see a bike that actually is better, especially bikes that I don't get to ride that much. I don't get to ride a 300 that often, and I'll be honest with you guys, I don't get that excited to ride one of these bikes because I'm mostly a moto guy, but when I get to feel the differences from a stock bike to this bike, that gets me excited. I'm more of a techie guy, so very fun build. Thanks to Red. As you guys know, you guys go to racerxonline.com. Have any questions about this build, chris@keyforinctesting.com. That's my email address. I'm happy to help you guys get in contact with any one of these companies that are on this build. And a quick mention, a quick shout out to WUSA for building some cool hubs. Silver rims. What do you think about silver rims?
I like them. It's a little different. Everybody's all black all of a sudden. But
It's like old school when we used to ride back in the 90s.
that's all I used to be able to get was silver rims, so I like them.
Don't forget, 12 issues, $30. RacerX publication, that's still available. Red, do you subscribe?
I do.
All right, I knew I picked this guy for a reason. Usually when I ask people that, they say no, but Red does. $30, get yourself something free. Lots of cool stuff in the publication. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.